You know, we both love sales and are passionate about the industry as a whole and the profession. And it's sad how many people think of salespeople as like this con artist. And we know from our experience, from our 30 years of being in sales, that it's really all about helping people and helping your clients get what they want, helping them solve a problem, make a decision. And when we can focus on that, it makes it fun. I don't know if anybody who's ever been in sales, that first year you're in sales, you probably loved it. And ever since then, maybe it's felt like it's started to become a battle, or you fight with your clients all the time. It's not as fun as it used to be. But it's because when you were new at it, you were just learning. You weren't concerned about making money from it. You were happy to just learn and help other people. And then once you got good at it, you're like, oh, now I want to make some money at this. And it became all about money, which is why it got hard.
Everything that we teach to everyone that we work with is something we have used to get ourselves out of our own complacency and ruts and troubled spots, where we do have those moments where we feel like maybe this isn't for us, or maybe it was a fluke, or all of my customers suck, or my company suck, or my coworkers suck. I mean, we have been there a couple of times. So we understand there's a boom and a bust cycle within yourself. And we were finally able to break it, to get through to the other side, to figure out the real joy that comes from a sales career. We were finally able to identify what are the fundamentals of a good sales career. What do you go back and practice again and again? Because there's a lot out there. I think that overwhelms people, especially when they're new to the industry. They feel like do I read about negotiation? Do I read about a handshake? Does that even matter in a digital world? How do I practice the right things? What is the right thing?
I'm surprised how often, like 67% of companies have zero formal sales training process. So the only way these people learn is from somebody who works there telling them, well, this is what you do. And if you've never been in sales and you go to work for a company like that, you may be taught by somebody who has no morals, who has no ethical guideline, that is in it just for themselves. And then you think that's what it is. And you take that with you everywhere you go, unless you can find a way of learning a better way of doing it. And I know from our experience and from the clients we've worked with, that when you embrace this process that we've developed, our formula, where it's knowing that there's a map you should go through every single time on a sale. There's a beginning, a middle, and end to every sale. And if you follow the path the right way, and yes, you need to learn the right way to phrase words and the right tonality to use. And you need to practice on your posture, your body language. You have to practice on how you ask questions. Never come up with something new in your head and never say it out loud before you say it to a customer, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to sound way worse than you thought it did in your head, you know, and those kinds of things. And it becomes fun. When you're not focused solely on yourself, you find that everything becomes more fun. I mean, think about it in your personal life. If every day when you're with your family or your friends, you're only focused on what you want out of it, not what they want out of it, when do you have fun? When you're only focused on you, or when you're focused on the group?
It is a team sport. You want to know what got me through those brick wall days? Was talking to people around me who knew what they were talking about, figuring out which ones knew what they were talking about, but really listening and taking their tactics and actually using them, practicing them. I mean, thank God I was surrounded by some really incredible people. Not only was I surrounded by them, but they also pointed me to the right books, the right videos. So I was able to practice the right things, and I saw a difference quickly. I mean, that's the worst part. You only know by doing. It's like, how many bad tactics do you burn through? Some people don't last a year because they practice all the wrong things and think that that is sales. Burnout is burnout. It's here. You started doing things that weren't aligned with this. And that is different for other people, which is why there's so many tactics out there, but it's gotta be aligned with what you know is right for you. And most of the time that means not shoving something down someone's throat, because you can feel it. It's amazing. People can feel it over the phone when you're not being authentic. When this is off, people can smell it. They can smell it. And you know it. You don't feel good. That's why you've talked about it, Peter. You don't feel good when you deploy a tactic that works, but it wasn't in alignment anymore. And we know that you can make money and provide value to people when you're in alignment. That's why we talk about creating help artists. It's an artist. It's an art. It's something you master. It's something that evolves over time, changes just like you do as a person. And it should, and it can still be good.
Yeah.
Always that move you forward are good. That's part of our name. That's why we talk about that mantra, is finding all the tools that match the alignment. When we talk about fundamentals, it's foundational. Sales is just as much an art as it is a science, and no one really talks about that. The books are all the science, and when this is off, this doesn't matter. One of my favorite quotes is from John Elway. Someone asked him when he was close to, the end of his career, he was at the height of his career, and they said, wow, he was so great. And they're like, well, how did you become so great? And he said, I became great by being good over a long period of time. The biggest metric that I think we all ignore, and excuse me if it's touchy-feely, but sales it's very much an emotional game on both sides of it. Just like sports is very emotional, but very masculine. Sales is the same way. It's emotional because it's so challenging. And when you get there, it's so exhilarating. But it comes down to, where do you start from? Like, if your foot is off, what is it, a corner? Blindside? What is it?
Either one. If your foot's off half a degree.
And if this is off a half a degree, if you're not checking in here before you do anything, your game is off, period.
Somebody who hasn't made a sale in a while, like, you start getting desperate. And when you start to get desperate, everyone you talk to knows. They know it. They can sense it. No matter how good you are or skilled you are at trying to mask it, if you're desperate, it bleeds through a phone call, a video call, or face-to-face, doesn't matter. They can feel it. It's almost like you could smell it on somebody, And I think that's when salespeople start to do things that are outside of what they would normally do because they're desperate. I think if we think about ourselves in any situation, if you haven't made money and you don't know how you're going to eat, you don't know how you're going to pay for your house or your rent or your car, you're going to do some things that are outside of your normal character, right? It's just normal. When it's that dire, we will do some crazy things. So that's why it's important to realize early in the shift that there's something that went wrong. And more often than not, when it was me in my career, it was, let me go back to my basics. Let me go back and re-look at my process. Let me go back and reread my scripts. Let me go back and role play harder, do more, listen to more of my calls. Or if I didn't have the ability to listen to my calls and I was face to face, it was, let me go and ask the people I have talked to that have told me no for feedback. And that's a hard one to do. It's scary because you're like, oh, I'm going to go ask people who rejected me why they rejected me. And if they're going to be honest with me, I have some hard truths I'm going to have to deal with. There's not a mistake you'll make 10 years into your career that you wouldn't have made at the beginning of your career, right? They're the same mistakes. It never changes. Now, the nice part is when you're a rookie, you can be ignorant to it. So when you learn it, you're like, oh, I saw what I did wrong. Cool. And then when you get later in your career, you're like, oh, I did that again. It's all about, can you sleep at night if that's what you think it is? Can you live with yourself every night if that's the way you look at it? Like, this is a dog-eat-dog world. I'm either going to win or lose. I'm out to conquer or be conquered, and that's it. And you're out to simply manipulate people to get them to do what you want. Like, look, I get it. As salespeople, we are trained in that. We're trained in the art of influence. We're trained in persuasion. But with great power comes great responsibility. And I know I'm quoting Spider-Man there, but I don't care. It's the truth. And I could sell almost anything to anyone, but then I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself. I'm ethical. I have morals and standards. And I've been highly successful helping the people I can help, and the ones that I couldn't, telling them where to go get the help from. The one thing also that I think becomes a problem when you go into the super high pressure version of sales is you're going to spend a lot of time talking to the 80% of people that are only going to provide you with 20% of your results. And when you shift that to, it's not about me, it's about them, I'm focusing on finding the 20% of the people that are going to give me 80% of my results. And I'm going to spend 80% of my time with that 20%. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter what sales industry you're in. That distribution holds pretty true. It's going to be close, maybe not exactly 20%, maybe it's 30% that provides you 80%, but there's still going to be a small portion that provides the lion's share. And why wouldn't you want to spend most of your time working with those people and not high pressuring everybody to try and get as much, for lack of a better term, blood out of a turnip as you can? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's such a hard life to live. And I know because I've lived that life. I was trained in that style sales early in my career when I first got into selling cars. Not when I sold furniture. I was trained more like I know to be the right way. And that's being a consultant in essence. Or we call it a consultative sales, but it's really just focusing on helping the other person, listening to what they tell you, really listening to what they tell you, so that you can clarify it back to them, so you can repeat back to them what you've heard from them, to confirm with them that you actually know what they were talking about, that while they were talking, you actually listened. Because more often than not, what I find is people are starting to think about, oh, okay, cool, they said this one thing, that's probably all I needed out of that one. Now, what am I going to have for dinner? And they check out. And then they get to the, okay, great, no problem. And they go to sell them something and they have no idea what the person really wants, or worse, they can't even help them. And now they're going to waste their time even more. And it's the pressure sales. It's going to lead you to burnout more often than not, because you're spending so much time talking to the wrong people. Why wouldn't you want to talk to more of the right people and have fun with what you do for a living? Sales is hard enough as it is. You said it, Peter. If you're going into sales because you want an easy life, wrong choice. In fact, I don't think anybody in sales really ever wants an easy life. We know life's hard. We know that life's not fair. And we want to go out and prove that we're not average, that we're not your regular person, your regular Joe, for lack of a better term. They're going to get all of it from us, not just the tactics, right? We talked about that. Like, we're going to help you learn those, but we're going to help you align your heart and your mind. We're going to have you align to the point where what we teach becomes a part of who you are, so that it is ingrained in everything you do. Because I firmly believe sales is life. Like, I know some people don't like sales, but let's be real. Without it, life doesn't exist. Any form of life doesn't exist. And so when we can embrace it for what it is, which is that help process, and we want to teach people to do that. We want to help them become a help artist so that they can show up every day, be better, not just at work, but in their personal lives also, and have fun. They
want a monetary amount put to the value that they provide, and they're willing to show up every day and provide value to someone else in exchange for it. I mean, that's what drives me nuts, is when people think that money is evil, that any amount. And it's funny, the excess point is different for everybody. What is too much? Is it 100,000 a year? Is it $500,000 a year? What is too much? And everybody has a different marker. And realistically, I found that people who really have a heart of service, who make a lot of money, they rarely keep the majority for themselves. They end up they pour themselves out in what they do every single day, and that shows up in how they handle their money and everything else. They're generous with their time and their spirit and their money. And the more they make, the more often they put it to good use. They give to charities, they help their family and their friends, and they invest in their own futures. They're the ones who end up building good companies because they're good people.
You just want to know, how do I do it? What's the best way to say this? We can send me an email, ask me who I would recommend to you. I will literally give you a list of exactly what books to read, who to go to on YouTube, what podcasts to watch, if all you want is that. But here's the thing, sales isn't only about a head game. In fact, in 80% to 90% of it is from the heart. It's an emotional thing. And that's the biggest part of it. It's about making sure that you're in line with yourself here, so that everything that gets taught to you on the logical side of it, on the tactics, on how to negotiate, how to influence, resonates with you, to the point where you sleep at night, every night, you have fun with what you do, and you literally are building real connections with real human beings. And long run, how would you like to be able to make 200 or 300 or 400,000 or $1 million a year ethically and in a way that you feel great about what you do? Like, have you ever met a salesperson and been like, what do you do for a living? And they're like, I'm a product manager. I'm a consultant. I'm a
business development.
But they say it sheepishly. Like,
it's never a salesperson.
Somebody asked me, no matter what, even when I was the national sales manager for a multi-billion-dollar company, doing $60+ million a year. And people would ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm a salesman. That's it. I'm a salesman. They're like,
you're unique.
Oh, really? Yeah. I sell my team every day on what to do the right way so that when they are on those phones, they are able to better impact them. And the first thing I said to all of my team members, anybody I ever hired, still anybody we hire for Always Good, I said the same thing to them. I have one purpose when it comes to you. That's to help you become a better person and to make more money. And if I fail in either one of those, I have failed you.
We made videos that were no more than 7 minutes long. In fact, I think there's only one that is 7 minutes long. All the others are 5 minutes. That's it. You do one a day. You do that 5 times a week, you'll have it. I mean, like you even said it, Peter, that 1% makes all the difference. And it's really painful when it's 1% less. And if that's where you're at in your sales, especially now, I think if things were really good and you got quarantined and you're having to work remote and your whole setup is off, you're working from home, you got to deal with your kids, there's an extra layer of communication and challenge already, then you need something to bring you back home to focus, to log in for 5 minutes, get a nugget, take your focus and just drive it into everything you do that day. That's your 1%. That's the fundamental. We get your head right so that everything you do deploy actually sticks and you're not out there just throwing noodles at the wall. I mean, that drove me bonkers in my sales career. It's like, oh, just try everything. Waste your time. Don't worry, something will happen. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. We've been around for how many years as humans? We haven't figured something out? Like, which book tells me the fundamentals? Where is it?
Is I like to think of the fact that the best salespeople are what I call an intrapreneur. Yeah. They are the same as an entrepreneur, but they do it from the internal side of things. They don't want the big headache, but they're willing to own everything about what they do every day as though it is theirs. That company might as well be theirs. Like, that's when I first got into the management part, I took over the entire floor as though I was the director. Because to me, it was my floor. I might as well have owned the company in my point of view then.
He used to show up early before most people were there and just stand at the front of the room and just look out over the floor, you know, like Mufasa, like all that the light touches is mine, you know?
I would, and I'd stand there like dead quiet, nobody there, because I beat all the salespeople in.
I think everyone should.
And then as they came in, they got greeted by me every single time. Morning, beautiful day. Every single day.
From a numbers perspective, the ROI, I would fully expect that people double or even triple what they would invest with us. But more importantly, what I want to really hear from people and what gets me for our clients, like I love the numbers. We've had some amazing numbers. People have increased their business by over 80%, and more than one client has done that. I'm not just talking about one client.
Business client, not just one salesperson. We're talking an entire sales team, 80% more business in less than 3 months. And they're having fun doing it, making cold calls. Imagine if you had fun making cold calls every day. I mean,
it's possible, but to me, that's the twofold. ROI, when you invest in any kind of sales program, you should absolutely see your numbers increase by more than you expected. At least double. If it doesn't at least double, then you're on the wrong path.
But we have a guarantee. Actually, we have a guarantee that says 5 times.
Yes.
If you do not make 5 times more than you invest with us in commission, we will give you your money back. That's how confident we are in what we do.
But what we really like to hear is that you love it. If you had an old love, I want to hear that it's reignited. And if you were already struggling, I want to hear that you love it. You found the flow.
You don't have to take a step back to go through the trainings that we have. You can do it in time. You already are doing nothing anyways, and learn a new way of doing what you already do. And yes, no matter what, more work means more work, but you can fit this in, or as like Tony Robbins says, no extra time.
Net time.
Net time. You can do what we do in your net time.
You want to feel good about your job? Greet people like you're the boss, whether you are or aren't. Because you are. You're the boss of you. You're the boss of that phone call. You're the boss of that email. You're the boss of that deal.
So to sum it up in the easiest thing, you said, what are we looking for? We're looking for hungry, enthusiastic learners who have a desire to reach a new level in life. They want that next level, and they want to do it ethically, and they want to have fun while they do it. I think that sums it up.